Okay, episode 5 already. Can't believe it. Right, behaviour in schools. Let's tackle the issue. Loads goes on in schools, and I'm following it on from last week's. If you've not watched last week's episode, it was regarding how well students had done, and was that influenced by the fact that working from home, students who disrupt school and the good running the school, they weren't there. Okay, so they wouldn't have been at home with them online, which meant they could have got on with their work and their technically one-to-ones with the teachers, even though they would have been in a group. But also at the same time, there's no distraction, so they get to learn because the behaviour kid isn't there. The disruptive child isn't in there. So I'm just going to park the disruptive child here for a second, and I'm going to come back to them in a minute. So what you've actually got is, and I've said it before, so many people have said it to me at the same time, is the fact that 10% of kids take up 90% of your time. So if you could focus 100% on that 90%, could you imagine? You imagine what they would achieve? It'd be absolutely fantastic. Okay. Now, without them disruptions, you've also got the fact that the teachers can teach. Okay, because when you've got a classroom of, let's say, 25, 30, okay, in there, and you've got the one disruptive one who's disrupting that one, who's making them laugh, who's upsetting them because they're trying to learn, and you've got to manage all that. That's why teachers are the most amazing, amazing people, okay, because all this goes on in the classroom. And you've got to manage that as well as deliver the classroom, deliver the correct level of work for each and every single one of those. Now, one of the old things is, and now somebody will have to come on and comment, does it still happen in school? Does the disruptive child that was in, say, set 1 because of their ability fall all the way down to what they call the bottom set? Does that still happen? So now what you've got is a disruptive child who's probably really, really clever, who should have been up there, now working with the students with special educational needs, completely ruining their learning, but that doesn't matter, does it? Of course it matters, 100%. If they've got the ability, they're going to get bored and they're going to get kicked out even more, so you have got to come up with a plan for this particular child. So the system, as you know, can be quite unfair for teachers, for schools. If you didn't have Ofsted, so let's chuck Ofsted over there. If you forget the DFE over there, your job is to educate the children and get all the children who want to in gainful employment in the future. What would life be like? Yes, you need structure, get that. For every single school you need structure. But what if you were doing what the kids wanted? So the kid needs English, that they know how to write, they know how to write a CV, they know how to write a letter, and their understanding of everything, of reading and writing, is all done, you know, and nice handwriting, because if you saw my son's, it's horrendous. And you put that into place, then you say maths. Do you know what? I'm going to take maths, and like with maths, okay, here we go. We're going to teach them percentages, multiplication, adding, minus, division, all that type of thing. All the stuff that we use for the rest of our lives. The whole lot of it is everything we use, and that is so, so important. Okay, and if you did that, okay, then these kids are going to have one hell of a life. But they're going to find interests along the way. So, for instance, something I really was passionate about school, was in history, was Tutankhamun. And for some reason, it absolutely pulled me in. It was the most amazing story. So I started learning and wanting more. So I was finding my knowledge. You know, I was finding my pathway of what I wanted to know. And it must have made the teacher's life so much easier, knowing I was like a sponge. Feed me knowledge, feed me. Do you know, I hope you really understand and know what I'm trying to say. Right, so that will be brilliant. Right, I'm going to bring over my little, there you go. This is my little cohort of my 10%. Now, by behaviour students, I'm not going to go down the road of those who have never been taught the tools to cope, and they've got special educational needs and things just aren't right for them. I'm going to go on of the kids who you've got no support at home, actually, whatsoever, or shall I say, the support from home is you as a school, you as a teacher, you are at fault. That we all know parents like that, and for those who aren't in education, I can tell you now, I remember showing HD CCTV footage of a fight in school. It wasn't a fight, it was an attack, it was a bully, it was everything else, and I can tell you now, their parents refused to acknowledge it was their child, even though it was crystal clear. And if you're in a school and you are competing with this and parents and stuff, how do you do it? How do you educate the 90%, the ones who's, you'll have your gifted and talented, we've got our special educational needs, and we've got the middle students here who so often get neglected, and the really good teachers, the outstanding teachers that I've brought Ofsted back in and all that lot, will identify and everything with those, but I've still got this 10%. So what do we do with them? Right, it's a little bit of a passion of mine, going back, just putting it out there. I never understood why we don't teach the kids the English and the maths that they need for the rest of their lives. So maybe at the end of year 9 they sit a test, okay, a life skills test, a functional skills test that says to everybody, do you know what, they've got the ability to go out into the world. You've then got the fact that, going back years when BTECs were altered, for those a little bit older, BTECs used to be worth 4 GCSEs. So students would go out for a day, they will go and learn construction, building, painting, decorating, the trades. What we're short of now is tradesmen, or tradespeople. Those that we are short of now used to be worth 4 GCSEs. So when a school needed to get their 8, Progress 8, I think it was called then, going back a few years. So when they needed that 8, there was 4 there for that kids who wanted to, but there were also the kids who school stifled them. So that 10% who didn't want to sit in a classroom, they were great with their hands, okay? And I'm not going to put everybody into this mold, there's not, but there is a good group of that 10% who absolutely love with their hands. They go for the design technologies in school, some go for the cooking in school, the BTECs when you go out, and the health and social care, so care workers at the moment, literally, which you see adverts everywhere asking for care workers. So all those jobs that we're now short of, skills and everything, are all the ones that on the BTECs. Now, what did schools do with those BTEC students? Soon as it was reduced from 4 GCSEs down to worth 1, the schools pulled all the kids back in because they still had to get Progress 8. So why have them out for a full day for 1 GCSE when they could have had them in school studying for at least 3 GCSEs, exactly where the child didn't want to be, or the student didn't want to be, exactly where they didn't want to be. Probably not where a number of teachers wanted them to be, was in school, because that one day when certain students were out was such a, and it was a teach and everything else like that. So all your little behaviour people on the corridor, as in your SLTs, people like that who checked corridors, those days were totally different in school, the atmosphere, everything about it. So why, after, say, year 9, are we pushing these kids through the last 2 years at school when there are options, but the options don't list towards the Ofsted framework, or do they? Because it's now about what's best for the kid. Now, if what's best for the kid is to have 2 days out of school, learning a trade somewhere, working on towards getting an apprenticeship, and having a few days in school, making sure that design, technology, all that sort of stuff on, because they've already got their English and maths, how would school now look? How would school now feel if we looked after that 10% in a whole different way. Now, when you've got 1,000 students in a school and you've got, say, 80 teachers, however, 30, 40 support staff, which include, I mean, that actually includes cooks, the cleaners, and everybody else who makes a school function. So when you've got them, how do you then take that 10% over here and work with everybody else, but make sure that 10% gets exactly what they need, an outcome? Let's prevent them from becoming a NEET. You know, how do we break that barrier to learning with their parents, for their parents to do it? Now, I came up with many, many situations where the parent who basically took up a lot of time because they would never admit and they always wanted to know what school did. Now, I'm going to go back years on this one. If I came home and said I had a detention, my dad wanted to know what I had done. Now, when some kids go home and they've got a detention, they're on the phone complaining and saying there's no way you're keeping my kid. That's kind of where, for me, you know, things are let down, and you know, and I go on about school teachers and school staff and everybody else, and the support staff and the teaching assistants and everybody else, and the learning mentors, year managers, how amazing they are, because they've got to manage a group of kids who don't want to be there, and technically their parents don't want to be there. We've not even got on about absenteeism. You know, it's so hard, because every kid deserves technically an individual learning plan, don't they? Everyone deserves one, but you can't give everybody one. It'd be great if you could. So what I'm saying is on this week's, it's win or bust. But the win or bust is different this week, because it's am I right, am I wrong? You know, should we be taking year 10s and 11s, lads and girls that don't want to be in school, and giving them something else, which gives them a future? You know, I put something on Instagram yesterday, this week, that literally said, is education broken? And I think it is. I think it's broken towards society, because I'm not going to go on about too much, but I think there's areas where certain people have too much powers and too many rights and stuff, because everybody deserves an education. And you know what? If you took those who kicked off and messed around and the jokers of the pack and everybody else, you know, if we move them away and give them their own package, then the special educational needs, which is my passion, will get the focus that they deserve. Now, some schools are fantastic at it. They really, really are. Some schools are amazing with them. And the teaching assistants they have are awesome. But there's still a number of them will become a NEET when they leave school. And that's a whole different subject that we've got to work together to stop. So I'm going to stop there to say, do you know what? Like the video, comment on the video, tell me where I'm right, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me whether it's the education system. Is it bust? Is the education system winning, or is the education system bust? Do we have to admit that we have a problem before we can start tackling it? You know, some of the hardest to reach schools have some of the most amazing kids, if you like, that have gone on to do amazing things, and I see that they're not celebrated in that school, and these people know them. I spoke to a primary school teacher, and they have what do you call it, like an alarm, you know, basically a kid's trashing the classroom, they press an alarm and everybody comes running. They didn't know at first that a system existed, and they'd been at the school for years. And then suddenly over the last 2-3 years, it's been used all the time. So what does that tell us? Where are we wrong? What's happened? At which point has this happened, that a school has gone from the most amazing relationships with kids and parents and everybody around there, that they're, you know, to the point that they're now pressing buttons because kids are trashing the classroom at primary school level? It's a tough one. Win or bust? Is the education system, is it winning? Is it bust? Like and comment below. Bit of a long one this week. I'm Simon Hall, KRS Education. Always here to help.